Okay, so now we're going to talk about the largest part of the brain, which is the cerebrum, and we're going to do that in several parts over the next pages. So let's just start with a discussion of the structures of the cerebrum. Okay. So the first thing you should know is that there is a right and left hemisphere to the cerebrum. So if we have our brain model here again, we would have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. Okay, so each hemisphere is a half of the cerebrum. Now here we're just looking at the cerebrum from a side view. And to remind you, this area all here is cerebrum. Note this is cerebellum, so as a reminder, that shows you this is the back side of the brain, and this up here is the front side. Okay. Now, as a reminder, a gyrus is one of those bumps on the brain, and the sulcus is a shallow indentation. A fissure is a deep indentation. Okay. All right, so a few landmarks that you need to know. Okay, the first is going to be this thing called the central sulcus. It's going to go about the area where, if you were going to take a coronal or frontal section, right across there, maybe it'd be the place where you put a little crown right in the middle of the head. Okay, but that's the central sulcus. It goes all the way from the right hemisphere across to the left, and in front of the central sulcus, you're going to have a bump. The bump on the anterior side is the meaning before, central sulcus. So you can think it's before you get to that sulcus. So this is going to be the precentral gyrus, the bump that is before that central area. And then you're going to have the post-central gyrus, post meaning behind. So it's behind the central sulcus. Over on the sides, okay, so more lateral, you're going to have this lateral sulcus that runs through here. Okay. Let's see, some other things you need to know is that there are lobes of the cerebrum. Okay. So this here in both pink and red, all of this is called the frontal lobe. Okay. All in blue, both dark blue and light blue, is the parietal lobe. In green at the back is the occipital lobe. And then over here is going to be the temporal lobe. It's on the sides, but a little bit inferior. Okay. Now you may notice, hey, but we just called this the precentral gyrus. Yes, the lobe includes that bump. It includes that gyrus. Okay. So, what I'd like for you to do to get yourself oriented here is look at each of these sulcuses. Okay. And in your notes packet is going to be a section that lists each of these sulcuses, or sulci. So the central sulcus separates these lobes. So I'll do the first one and you can do the others. Okay. So as a reminder, okay, here's that central sulcus. Well, what lobes does it separate? It looks like it separates red from blue. And if we look on our sheet, that would be separating the frontal lobe from the parietal lobe. Okay, so these are all landmarks. So we would go here, it separates these lobes, frontal lobe from parietal lobe. Okay. And so go through and see if you can find these parieto-occipital sulcus. We haven't talked about that, but I think you should be able to tell what it is, either based off the name or you can look at images in your book. So a reminder, this asks for the 5 lobes of the cerebrum. One of those would be the frontal lobe, as an example. Now we've just talked about 4 of them, but there is this 5th one. And so to see that, we need to look at this next slide. Now what this slide is showing okay, is this silver thing is a retractor. So that would be kind of like a clamp that dives into something and pulls it back. So here we have pulled back the temporal lobe, and we have pulled back the frontal lobe. And if you look deep inside, right here, there's actually another lobe, and that lobe is called the insula. So after you list out the 4 lobes we've already talked about, you also need to list out the insula. Okay. So those are going to be the different structures of the cerebrum. We'll talk about these 2, corpus callosum and anterior commissure, on a later page.